let's save $1. Like if it were up to me, like our house would have no furniture in it. We like our bank accounts would be flush with money,
and we'd be like changing the light bulb from room to room that we go to, depending on which room we're in.
Sounds brilliant. Sounds brilliant.
There are people that do it.
Yes. Right.
Yeah, we know of some.
That's my biggest fear. Week's episode of Teaching Keating. Sleigh bells ring.
Oh, good one, babe.
Are you listening? No.
That was good. I liked it. Keep going. I was about it. I said good one, babe. Here we go.
Now it's gone.
Oh, we need Christmas music.
Now it's gone.
It's okay. 'Tis the season.
'Tis the season. 'Tis was the season.
Oh, okay.
'Twas the season.
Okay.
'Twas the season of...
Say 'twas some more.
'Twas the season...
It's a funny word. Sorry, we're just talking about
purchasing and consumption, and I'm sure, like lots of families, people are feeling the
strain,
buyer's remorse.
Sure,
maybe.
I don't know. We go through phases.
Gift giving shouldn't give you buyer's remorse.
I mean, there's so much baggage that comes with the holidays.
We do a better job.
Gift giving.
We do a better job of this.
We've evolved, I would say.
We have evolved.
Pretty,
right? But no doubt, post holiday season, people are like, "Oh my gosh, now it's time to pay off the holidays."
Well, we come from different schools of thought, and that was very early on in our marriage where we really had to figure out, like, we both.
We're talking about money today.
I know we are. Sorry,
we're talking about
Spoiler
money.
Alert, we're going to talk about money. This is a very sensitive topic for us, you guys.
This is a very sensitive topic for me, you guys.
No.
I don't think you have sensitivity about money conversations. We come like
go ahead, get into it.
We have very different schools of thought.
We do
around money,
and we came from very different familial structures around money.
Oh yes.
So we had to, like, very early in our marriage, we were just talking about, like, the first 5 years we had to sort your stuff out, and more. I mean,
had to sort my stuff out.
No, sort our stuff out. And I'm positive we're gonna do we languaging here. It was both of our stuff.
Okay, great.
It was okay.
Okay, great.
I'm just saying you had a different mindset around money than I did, and we've had to label it. So yours is a very scarcity mindset around
total scarcity mindset,
finances and money. I did not have that same understanding. My family thought about it differently. It came from a different place, but we both had baggage financially.
Yeah, and
so then. Fast forward, you get to the holidays and those first few Christmases, and then we're trying to marry, literally and figuratively, our familial finance.
Having said that, I also
money.
come from a family that balled out for Christmas.
Yes,
but I don't think,
which is very strange. My family did not.
Christmas in my house was always awesome.
Yes.
It was awesome.
Yes.
And
it was exciting for me to come into a family like that, where it was like, oh, this is like a really big deal. They really like all of this. And I'm
having a wonderful realization that I think what my parents did, because my parents are savers.
They are.
They're dynamite savers.
Great.
But I'm having this understanding as an adult. This is one of the cool things that happens when you're an adult about, like, your relationship with your parents. Like you start to discover, like, oh, I think that what they were doing all year was just like, they were looking for deals all year and saving up so that they could make Christmas awesome.
Right.
And I'll say, like,
they did.
Let me not get emotional. Let me not get emotional about this. Like, our Christmases were
mission accomplished.
Awesome.
Yes.
They were so fun.
Sure.
I have so many fond memories. I might be able to tell you 3 gifts that I actually received. I don't remember a lot of the gifts.
Yes.
But I remember the feeling.
I couldn't tell you a thing I got in my childhood.
But it was awesome.
That's a lie. One present. When I was 23, my mom got me my first iPod, and it was like life-changing. Not even kidding.
You still have it.
I still have that iPod.
You still have it.
I still have it. It still works. I keep it connected to the dock because the battery's, iffy. But I still listen to music on it. It was life-changing. Like, singular, formative. Like, and I was very, I loved music, and I was very into music and culture and all the things that surrounded that at that time. So it was a really
also
impactful gift for me.
I'm going to give you the best compliment I could give you.
Oh, I can't wait. Go ahead.
The music that you have on that iPod
thank you.
is incredible.
Yeah, thank you.
But your taste in music has always been amazing.
I mean, it was early 2000s. It was like Radiohead and Coldplay and all this stuff, all these like bands that I'd seen, and then all this like weird emo stuff that was random. It was like Sufjan Stevens and his first like couple of
I didn't
albums.
realize
It was
when we were
really good.
I didn't realize when we were dating like
Yeah.
what a music
And it was all on there. It was so great.
file,
Yes.
if that's a
I
thing,
don't know. Sure.
that
I
you
don't know.
were.
Yes.
And I was just like, oh yeah, like music is fun.
Mm-hmm.
And so when we
Oh yeah, there's a lot of good songs out there.
when we were first dating,
This
Molly-
is a good story. Go
Molly-
ahead. Yeah.
Molly asked me like I said like, oh, I'm going to the gym, and you're like, oh, what do you listen to when you're at the gym?
Really specific
You said
playlist.
send me your gym playlist.
Yeah.
And
I
it's,
probably could have guessed, even knowing you, like the very minimal amount that I knew.
I
at
looked
that time.
back
I
at
was
what
like,
I'm
probably could have guessed what's
humiliated
on
at
there.
what I sent you. And I didn't realize
I only
when
remember
Molly
there's,
was
like-
asking for my
Yeah.
music playlist,
Okay.
it was the closest I've ever been asked to like send a dick pic.
Okay.
It's your version of it.
Okay.
And-
let's keep it PG here.
Well, like Jen, you guys will bleep that out for us, please. But like,
Our children will listen to this someday.
but it was like
whatever. Sure.
you
Carry
were-
on.
I-
Yeah, go.
And now I'm humiliated by what I sent
I mean,
you.
thank God you didn't know what you
I
could have known at the moment. I mean,
can't-
I didn't treat it like that with
I
you. I
can't
was like,
believe-
oh,
I can't-
okay, pretty questionable, but
I
whatever.
think you looked at it. It was like,
Yeah.
well, I'm gonna have to fix this. Add it to the list.
Probably. I think I probably was like, he just doesn't know what he doesn't know. So we'll work on that later.
But yes, your iPod.
Sure.
All that to say,
Thank
like,
you.
all that to say,
Yeah.
that like that's not our topic for today.
No,
Like,
you
our-
remembered the gifts though. Good job. I did. I remember the iPod, the one gift.
I don't remember
but
the
I couldn't
gifts.
remember
I remember the
any
feeling.
of my childhood gifts.
I remember the feeling.
Yeah.
And Christmas always felt awesome.
Sure.
And I hope
go ahead.
I hope people are coming off a holiday season
Yes.
where it was just like, man, like this felt great.
Sure.
I'm sure there was all kinds of like drama and
Sure.
stuff as there is over
Yeah.
the holidays,
Yeah.
but like, you know, when it comes to like our kids, I hope we're creating great memories for our kids.
I pray we are. I
like
was
you
thinking
and I
that
have.
too. Well, and I have different memories around that. Like you were talking about like stuff. Like ours was never financially based, not because it wasn't financially based. My dad's family was very similar to your family, so it was always like we got a lot of presents.
My
it was
folks are
always
very generous gift givers.
Yes, it was always a big to do. It was really like we'd all go down there for Christmas Eve, and it was fancy, and like have a really nice dinner, and then there were like abundance of presents, and like really same thing, very generous gift giving. On my dad's side, my mom's side was really different in the sense there was just so many more people, so it wasn't like. My mom was the oldest of 6. And so then you multiply that by spouses and grandchildren, and there's just like too many people.
Yeah.
So it wasn't so much present based or gift giving based. That wasn't really their love language, right? And I like to talk about in the sense of like love language because
sure.
it's very personal for people, and it's not just about like, oh, you're materialistic and you're materialistic and we're not. It has nothing to do with that.
No.
It's very much around like
I think that's a great way to frame it.
yeah, I really want to frame it around like, oh, it's a love language, and
Yeah.
what your love language and your family's love language kind of actually matters.
Yeah,
'cause
like
that-
my dad's love language
Sure.
is gift giving.
Yeah. He
Everyone,
really likes
like
it.
when we did the
Excuse
gift
me.
exchange
Yeah.
still to this day.
He always goes
everyone,
outrageous.
Everyone hopes that my dad gets them.
Yeah, it's good.
Because it's like, oh,
He does. He's very
Big
generous.
Phil's
He's
gonna
great.
make it
yeah.
rain.
Yeah. And he's like, he does really like nice
He's
gifts. He's
thoughtful.
very thoughtful. He's very high end. He pays attention all year long. You know, he's really, you never know if he's listening, but he's really listening.
And the funny thing
he's
is,
dialed
like,
in.
like I know my mom will hear this, like
Yes.
because she always listens to our podcast,
Yeah.
and she'll agree.
Yes.
And I
Yeah.
think it's infuriating for her.
Oh, really? Why?
How good at gift giving my dad
he
is.
just like that's a natural gift. Like
He's
that's just
so-
part of his nature. He
he's
really
so
cares.
good at it.
Yes.
To the
he
point
does.
where like even when you think you've got something
Yes.
great, it's like, damn it.
Yeah. Now you try to outdo him and really
Good
get
luck.
him back with like something really thoughtful
luck.
and intentional. Although you did with the bow that year. That was a really good one.
Yes, that was a good one.
He was about it.
It's a good one.
Anyway, so there are some you guys have a real interesting scheme of familially.
All of that to say.
Yes.
All of that to say. Like, I think it's an important topic,
Sure.
right? Because we've talked about it before. Like, everything we do, everything we say, everything we wear, everything we
Yeah.
post online,
Yeah.
everything we spend money on, like, sends a very clear message to kids
Yeah.
about what's important.
Right. And our value
And-
system.
And there's, and I think there's
What
sort
we
of,
value, what we don't.
I think there's probably
Sure.
a very short list of things
Yeah.
and places where we have influence over kids,
Mm-hmm.
whether it's in the classroom, whether it's in our own houses, where it's just like, I think we need to spend more time talking about it. And money is one of those things. And so today I want to talk about like, hey, what are our biggest fears about money, right? Like what messages
Sure.
are we sending to our kids about, hold on. I had a list of things here.
Okay, go ahead.
So
This is good. This is good because you have it in your notes.
so like
Let's
our
not
deepest
lose it.
fears about money,
Great.
right? Like what are we teaching our kids about money? And does it match with what they see us do with money? And then a fun
That's
one.
going to be the hardest one.
And then I want to know who the Scrooge and the Bob Cratchit is in our
Okay.
family when it comes to money.
oh, that's so easy.
Okay. Oh, do you want to start with that? No. Okay, let's start there.
Everett is hands down the Scrooge.
Everett is the Scrooge.
Oh, 100%.
That is a
He's
full
fine
agreement.
to spend anyone else's money except his own,
Correct.
in which case he's not even going to give you
We
like
gave
a nickel.
we
That
gave
kid is a real Scrooge.
the best-
Embarrassingly, I don't love it.
The best example
Yeah.
of this is the one time we took our kids to Disney World.
Yes.
Which we did one time,
Yeah.
and I said I would do one time,
Yeah.
and it was awesome.
It was awesome. It was good. They were good ages to do it.
Even though
It was
that's
great.
my nightmare.
Sure.
I hate crowds.
Thanks
and I
for
hate
dying
lines,
to yourself. It's
and
fine.
I
Good.
get motion sick on rides.
Yes.
But before
Good
we
Dramamine.
went, we basically gave both of our kids a
Your
gift
parents
card.
did.
Yes, that's
Your
correct.
parents
we
gave
didn't.
them the budget.
Yes.
We did not.
My
Yes.
parents gave both of our kids Disney gift cards.
Same amount of money.
And I was like, okay, this is great. It was like, hey, don't ask us any questions about like, can I have this? Can I have this?
Sure.
Here's your card.
Yeah.
And when it's gone, it's gone.
Right. And you can have it.
5 minutes
And
into
it was a healthy amount.
Yes.
It would have gotten them through the 4 or 5 days.
It was
or
like
whatever.
$100.
I mean,
think my
for
parents-
little kids, they were like,
Which is,
they were 6
it
and 8.
might as well be $1 million
Sure.
for a 6
Sure.
and 8 year old.
Yes. It
But
was plenty. And honestly, like food wise, they didn't have to pay for a lot.
But
anyway.
I'll say
It was
this.
plenty of money for them. Yeah.
5 minutes into the park, Charlotte's was gone.
It wasn't 5, but it was in the first hour.
It was.
She
and-
got like 2 stuffies.
Yes.
She bought herself some food. I don't know. She
had-
went outrageous. She did it.
Meanwhile, we get through the entire trip and we're
Yes.
getting ready to leave the park.
Yeah.
And Everett has spent $0.
And then he cried.
Yes.
Because he was like, oh, he wanted something, but then he was nervous. And so he ended up not getting it. And then he ended up not getting anything. And then he was upset, like, oh, I should have bought it.
Yeah.
I have the money. I still have money left over. I should have bought it. And he was really upset.
He was really upset. And I'm like, dude, what are you
Yeah,
doing? Like,
I know.
Okay. So
It's okay.
Everett's the Scrooge.
So he's the Scrooge.
Who's the Bob Cratchit? Who's the most generous in our family? Not to themselves, because Charlotte's really generous with herself.
She's very generous with herself.
Who's the most generous in our family?
You.
Yes.
Yeah,
That
it's
is-
you.
That's correct.
You're very much like your dad, like that. You
Which is-
pay attention. You're very intentional, and you're a really great gift giver.
Which is funny because
Yes.
I trend more towards my parents
Yes.
in that I'm
Yes.
a saver,
Yes.
but I like to be generous.
Yes.
I
And you're
like it.
very thoughtful when it comes to that.
If you are my
Yes.
family or you are my people,
Yes.
I love being generous
You are
with money.
very much so.
It's-
yeah.
okay.
Well done. Great. That was an easy one. That
check
was an
and
easy
check.
start.
I'm glad we agreed.
I am too. Let's start with the happy, because then the other
okay.
questions are going to be more difficult.
So
and because we said finances
so
are
let's-
pretty vulnerable
So
for
let's
us. Go
jump
ahead.
into the first one.
Go ahead.
Biggest fear around money.
You go, because
Oh,
I
mine-
answered immediately
mine's
first.
mine's easy, and
Okay.
you already said it. Like,
Sure.
I'm constantly nervous, anxious that every dollar that we have is all going to go away.
Yes.
And if like you and I have very different mindsets around this. Like if we make $1, you're like, let's spend $2.
I have
you used to be
grown in
used to be
that.
like that.
Thank you very
Whereas I'm of the
much.
mindset
Okay.
of like, if we make $1, let's save $1. Like if it were up to me, like our house would have no furniture in it.
Yes.
We like
Yes.
our bank accounts would be flush with money.
And we'd be like changing the light bulb from room to room that we go to, depending on which room we're in.
Sounds
I mean,
brilliant.
that is.
Sounds brilliant.
There are
right?
people that do it.
Yes. Right?
Yeah.
That's-
we know of some.
That's my biggest fear.
Yes.
Biggest fear.
Yeah.
And we actually, because you and I see money so differently,
Yes.
I think one of the smartest things that we did as a couple, and I would encourage people to do this, like we got a financial manager, financial planner when we had no money.
Right.
Because we
When
just
we had a negative net worth.
we had a hardcore negative net
Yeah.
worth. But
she
we
was
got
like, "You're in the red,"
and I was like, we are
and you thought we were
I was
crushing
like, we are
life.
killing it. And she
Yeah.
was like, here's your net worth,
Yeah.
negative, a huge number.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh my God. Right?
Yeah. It was good for you to see.
Which only then reinforced every fear I had.
Sure.
But also like we needed a tie break.
Yes.
Before we got married, we realized like this, like we were told in our marriage prep, like, oh, this is the thing you're going to fight about.
Yeah.
You're going to fight about money.
So let me give a little caveat, because we've talked about this a lot, but I'll just give people some more context. So we, in the Catholic Church, they don't just like let you get married,
No.
which is maybe good or bad. I
You
don't
gotta
know.
take
It's
surveys and
you have to
classes
take
and-
surveys. You have to take classes. There's a whole litmus test. Like there's a long test that you have to take separate. And then you have to go through with like, it depends on who they have at like wherever you get married, but like it's usually a psychologist or a family therapist where
Yeah.
they go through your answers together. And,
Yeah.
and it's good because there's a lot of research. One, they do it because you can't really get out of marriages in the Catholic Church. They don't like you to. So they really want you to know what you're getting into, which for us at the time we were getting married was really good because it provided a lot of clarity.
Yeah.
And it's just, they make you talk about things you don't you would never talk about, you know, at all. Like you would never ask your spouse, like, you know, they really get into the nitty gritty and nuts and bolts of like things that are very vulnerable topics that you're going to have to talk about because they will come up in your marriage.
Oh, yeah.
So children, family life, family history, all of the things, any substance abuse,
we
alcohol
took those
abuse,
assessments and they divided
sexual
up by
proclivities, all of the things.
They divided up by category and it was like 90% or higher, 90% or higher, 90% in terms of our alignment.
Scored,
in terms of our alignment.
Yes, in terms of where we saw our life.
And then the money category came up and it was like 40%.
Yeah.
It might have been like 30%.
No, I think we were in the 40s, but it was like low 40s.
It was
the only one that was like
in the school world. It was an F, and it wasn't even close.
You're both, yes. Fair.
And so
we know how percentages work. So like, yes, in the school world, it was like 90, 40. It was bad.
We paid the money when we didn't have it.
Yes.
To get a financial planner.
Yes.
Because we needed a tiebreak.
Well, and so we took that right before we got married. Then we are in our marriage, and we're like, oh, here's. Surprise, surprise, here's what we're fighting about all the time.
Yeah.
Like knockdown dragouts, and then you add in jobs and babies and a new house and all of the things. And it was like coming up over and over and over again. Stressful when you didn't have any money because we were both on educator salaries at that point. We were both working, and then you added in a new baby and you added a move and all of the things. Every stress thing that you could add around finances, we did.
We had.
So
we bought our first house.
Pressure cooker.
We had our first child.
Yes.
Like, we paid for a wedding.
Multiple incomes. It was a lot. And so we did need the tie break because, and I would say this, I mean, you said this before previously, we've both come to center, but you don't necessarily just like throw away your entire identity in the way that you think about finances like the second you get married.
No.
We've come to center a lot. You've come a lot more to center. I think I've become a little less frivolous and more sort of thoughtful, I would hope, because I would say like at the beginning I was like, oh, I probably was pretty frivolous. I was like, oh, you can't take it with you. Who needs it? Whatever. Let's pay off my loans.
You lived with this mindset I had never considered of like, oh, we'll make more money.
Yeah.
Like, oh, like
let's work harder.
If you
just make more.
If you lose your job, like you'll just get another job. I'm like, what are you talking about?
Yeah.
I'm always of the mindset like this is the last dollar I'm going to make and this is the last job I'm going to have.
Never. That was never in my brain ever.
I don't. So that's my fear about money.
Okay.
I'm dying to know your answer
Sure.
to your biggest fear. I don't know that I could pick it.
I don't have one. It was what I was going to tell you.
What?
I really don't. Okay, that's a lie. I worry that in terms of finances, I just always want to be able to, like, if the children, and I don't think it's healthy to give your children like tons of money. I think that's a bad idea. You and I never had tons of money, and we were always pretty work hard. That was one of the things we were aligned on. I was like, okay, like get to work. If you want to make more money, like get to work, get another job.
Yeah.
Drive a cheaper car.
It's the one place we were aligned about.
It was like, just do something different. Like make a different choice. Like don't drive something that you can't afford. Don't live without a roommate. It's funny to me, and this is maybe very generational, but it's funny to me, like I'll talk to like my younger cousins or something and they'll be like, ugh, I mean, I'm doing extra work and they just didn't pay me anything extra. I had this conversation yesterday and I was laughing. I was like, but they're giving you more responsibility. And she was like, yeah, but I'm not getting paid for it. And I was like, okay. And then the one sister was like, just don't do it. And I was like, oh, okay. Well, that's a method. Literally out loud. Like, well, just don't do it. And I was like, okay, well, that's a thought. That could be a choice. Or you could maybe make a different choice and maybe ask for like, okay, so like there's added responsibility. It's not always needed for compensation, but it also could be like, well, what other things could you do that would be more responsibility or give you to a place where like you could get the responsibility and then there would be a different sort of compensation, not necessarily monetarily, but maybe different hours, or maybe you get choice schedule, or maybe like there's a lot of space and room. It struck me just like as a very immature, like, well, just don't do it. And I was like, okay, that's not a thing. And just figure out, but for me in my financial brain, it's just like work differently, work smarter, get a different job, get another roommate. Like you don't have the luxury of like making millions of dollars and living where you want to live and not, I was like, that's just actually not a thing.
Yes.
So to your point, like my fear around money is like, we don't give our children enough resilience around money where they know how to maneuver with it and use it as the tool that it is. Right. Like that's a deep fear of mine. I feel like that we've indulged them too much to the sense that like, they just don't they don't understand that it's a tool or understand the value of it. And hopefully that will come with maturity and age. I pray that it will. But I feel like that's a deep fear that I have around mine. Where I'm like, oh, I haven't, their relationship to this, maybe I haven't cultivated as well as I should have. That's mine. Oh, no. Why are you silent? You're never silent. Are you just like having a moment? What's happening here?
Like,
talk me through it. Go ahead. Go ahead.
Because of I think you're right. Let me say that.
Okay. Thanks.
You don't need to clip that part.
But
like moments like this are always hard for me to hear.
Okay.
Because I I always think we're killing it.
Yes.
Just ask me. Right. And so like to hear moments where I think like we're failing.
I don't think it's a failure. Again, there's a lot of space
where we haven't succeeded yet.
There's a lot of space for us to grow here.
Correct.
For sure. Yeah.
Okay. Next question.
Sorry. Man. Okay. I'm really getting you.
Okay. So what are we teaching our kids about money?
I think that they're okay. So yes, I don't necessarily love their relationship with it currently. I think we're teaching them. I do feel like they have a good awareness of a budget, one more than other. And I do think it doesn't mean they always stay in it. It doesn't mean they adhere to it. It doesn't mean they care about it at all, but they know what it is. So I think that that's good. I also think that we don't place a lot of importance on it, with the exception that it's a tool. So like they never worry about like what they're going to eat or where they're going to eat. They don't really worry about what they're going to buy or when they're going to buy it, but they're not materialistic, I would say. I don't think they care about it at all. I would say they see it as a tool. Like, for example, our son, like if I were to be like, you need some new shoes? Like you have holes in those, clearly. Like we need to get you some. He'd be like, I don't know if I do, Mom. I don't really care. Like he just doesn't
He'll
really.
say things like, we don't need to spend money on
Yes. And I don't know if that's part of his Scrooge identity or not. I hope it's not. I hope he grows in that. But he'll be like, he just doesn't care about it. He'll be like, I don't really need it. He has a real clear understanding of like
need versus want.
He's very like neutral about that. Like he doesn't care in general. So I would say that that's a win. Our daughter has a different relationship with it, but I still think she's deeply aware. Like, so for example, the other day when you were talking about the nails, she knows how much it costs and she is like, okay, I do want it and I like it, but thank you. Cause I do know that it's expensive and I feel kind of bad, and she was talking about it with a friend the other day and her friend has to babysit for her nail money because it's expensive and our daughter doesn't have to necessarily do that. She has a different schedule. She has a lot going on right now and I would ultimately like her to get to that place so that she could earn more. I learned it a long time ago and it's always stuck with me. Like you just do not value anything you do not pay for. You just don't. Whether it's a lot of money or a little money. And that has stuck with me for forever. And it's just true in life. If you do not have any sort of fiscal investment in anything, whether it's $10 or $1 million, it doesn't impact you. You don't see it. You don't have there's no visceral connectivity to it. And so that's a place, at least for me, that I think we're doing okay with our children and that maybe we still need to grow in, and hopefully they will grow with age.
That's fair.
Yeah. What about you?
I feel so like the whole like money is a tool thing. Absolutely. Ditto to that. I also feel like I'm working really hard to teach our kids like, hey, access to money is not a given. It is a byproduct of work and responsibility. And so like I feel like we're trying to teach our kids that even though like our kids are 13 and 15, but they don't have jobs.
Right.
But I've told our children many, many times, right? Like their job right now is you are to be a really good student and do well in school. And you have to make good, responsible choices in and outside of school. And you have to be actively involved in an activity.
And they are
crazy
adhere
active,
to all of those
right?
things.
I don't care if it's sports.
Sure.
I don't care if it's music.
Sure.
But you have
a thing.
You have to pour into a thing.
Yeah.
And I've told them over and over, like, hey, as long as these three things are true, that you are working really hard in school, getting really good grades, that you are making responsible choices, and that you're actively involved in a thing, I got you.
Well, and I think this is different too, because you and I even have different perspectives and we're both in education, not about the grades, but I really care about the process. So I would say
I
our
know,
son
but you
who's
and I,
more mature.
you and
we're
I
at
look at
different
this
places.
different.
We do.
You like the process that is school and learning. Like for you and I view it differently. Like
Yes.
school is a game for me.
Yes.
School is a place where you come and you exchange behaviors for points. And
Which
like
I hate that entirely. I hated it when I was in the classroom, and I hate it
I'm not
now.
I'm not saying that I
Yeah.
like that. I'm saying that's the nature of school right now.
Fair enough, and that is the system.
And you can, and this is where you and I are different. Like
Right.
you can choose to swim upstream
Yes.
and fight that current,
Yes.
or you can figure out which way the current's going, and you can swim with the current,
Yeah.
and you can crush it at this thing, knowing that like real life is on the back end of that.
Yeah.
And if you're able to like swim with the current and play the game,
Mm-hmm.
like it'll set you up for the things that come on the back
I
end.
get that that's your mentality, and I hate it only because
I don't like it either.
yeah, but you participate in it, and that's
What's
where
what's the choice?
swim upstream. And just don't. Yes. Okay.
No.
I get it. I get it. I get it. I get that we have different schools of thought around this, but also it leads to our different schools of thought around money, which is like, I'm a human being. I'm not an exchange of behaviors to get what I want. You're fine for the exchange of behaviors to get what you want. I don't like that because ultimately behaviors lead to character, which leads to ultimately who you are in your life. I don't think you should cultivate those behaviors. And I don't want those behaviors cultivated in our children. That said, I don't think we are. I don't think we're cultivating them in our children. I think our
hope
kids are
not.
both really good work. They both know how to work. I do think that's a good win for us currently. It depends on what they're working on, which is equal to their amount of effort. But when it's something that they care about, they know how to work and they will work.
I
and
agree.
they can grind, and that's good. I do want to broaden their perspective of like exchange of money. That money is just a tool, but ultimately it's an important tool, and you don't get to be frivolous with it, or you don't get to be miserly with it. You need to be a good steward of it. And so I think we've tried to use that word pretty specifically of like
Stewardship is a word that I love.
and we've switched
when it comes to
we've
money.
switched our language actually
Yes.
around it, and we've been really intentional about like wanting to we talk about it a lot
Yeah.
in the context of stewardship and stewardship alone, not money, not finances, but like everything is exchange of goods. Like your time is you can be a steward of, money you're a steward of, who like where you spend any sort of equitable exchange needs to be under the umbrella of stewardship, because it's where your values are, to your point.
Yeah.
And the values that we give. So it's not just valuing money. It's like how are we using
it
the things
as a
that we
tool?
value and using it responsibly, basically. So that stewardship umbrella has been really helpful for us in our conversations around finances with money. What else? Go ahead. You're having so many thoughts.
This is a hard one
It's
for
a hard,
me.
yeah.
Like
yeah.
you wanted to have this conversation right now, and I'm just like, I'm
Well,
not.
I want it. Yeah. I mean, I thought like,
I don't know if I'm prepared to
I
have this
know,
conversation right
I
now.
know.
But
it's pretty vulnerable.
But here's
Sorry.
the thing: like
Yeah.
we could wait 6 years, and I don't know if I'm
Yes.
prepared to have this
Yeah.
conversation.
It's never easy. It's why the old adage, like why you don't talk about money in politics.
Some people won't listen to this episode because if it's about money, there's like, ugh, like I don't want to.
Yeah. I hope not. I mean, I hope that this is an honest conversation
well,
that we can have a conversation about, that we have diverging thoughts and thinking around
Well, I
that
think,
we've had to come to center.
I
Go
think
ahead.
it's a thing that we need to teach all kids too, like not just in our homes, but like in our schools.
Yeah.
Like, hey, like having honest, forthright conversations about money
Sure.
is a skill.
Yeah.
And this is a skill that you need to develop because it will serve you in your life as a single person.
right.
It'll serve you in your life as a married person
Sure.
or as a partner to somebody else. Like it's a really important conversation. If you look at sort of like the metrics and the research at what couples fight about.
Oh yeah.
It is.
Isn't it still the number one reason why people get divorced?
It's always in the top 2.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know if that's still consistent data, but it has been like within the last 10 years. It was at one point the number one reason.
Yeah.
I don't know after COVID. I mean, I don't even know. Like who?
I'm sure
I
someone
wouldn't
will
be
fact check
surprised.
us on this.
Please.
But like,
Yeah. Yeah.
It's in the top 3
Sure.
universally.
Yeah. It's because it's so stressful. And to our point, I think people are just thinking like, oh, you just think about it the way I think about it, or you think about it different. And that's really reductionist. And I don't think it's necessarily respectful of your partner. We had to do a lot of really heavy work in the way that we thought about money, the way we still think about money, the way that we would come to center what we'd be spending on. where it was okay to talk about it, where it wasn't okay to nickel and dime each other. Where there was so much work to do.
I think it's,
and I'm encouraged by it because we've gotten there, but I don't want to like deny people and be like, oh, it was so hard for us.
well, I think it's a lie.
And painful.
I think it's a lie people are either told or they assume before they get into a relationship with someone. It's like, oh, you're going to get into a relationship and you're just going to like click about like likes and dislikes and interests. And then you're also going to click about how you spend money.
Yeah.
And then you're also going to click about
Lies,
like, hey,
all
how
lies.
you parent children.
Yeah,
Like, and it's not like, it's a boatload of work.
Well, and to our previous, point, like we scored 90s in a lot of things and then 40 in this, and we've still had to have a lot of come to center.
Oh yeah, it's not the only thing.
No,
we fight about.
I mean, we have so many conversations all the time.
We find lots of things.
Yes, we've had a lot of conversations, which is good. I mean, what's the alternative? You're just not going to talk about it and then let it build and then have resentment and then ultimately things blow up and then go to pot. Like that's not the point.
No.
I said, yes, we're in this. I took my vows really seriously. So like dig in, let's go. But it has been very painful for us.
It's hard.
And I think what we thought is like, okay, we'll just do the work and we'll both come to center. And we have come more to center, but it doesn't take away the fact that we both really still are divergent in our thinking about it.
True.
And it was good for me to understand where you're coming from. Sorry to step on your words.
Yeah.
I just want to affirm you really quick. Scarcity just
Then I'll
doesn't
wait.
go away. Like
No.
it just like that mindset of like, ooh, it's never gonna come again, and like that doesn't go away. And
adults,
it was less
adults
about,
who are listening to this
Sure.
podcast or
Yeah.
watching, like
Yeah.
whatever feeling that you have about money, probably in your 20s, is the feeling you're always going to have.
Oh, I mean, you've had that feeling when you were like 10.
I know,
or
but I'm being
5
generous,
okay.
right? Like,
I
but
was like,
but it's
this
really
is way further back than
it's
that.
grounded in concrete by the time you hit your 20s.
And
sort of
you-
like the relationship that you have with money,
Yeah.
and like that is unlikely to change. What can change are your habituated behaviors around money.
But you have to be
That's
Sure.
changeable.
And you've been very intentional and incredibly conscious around knowing that historically, like that mindset didn't really serve us. It didn't serve us in our marriage. It definitely didn't serve us in our parenting. It didn't serve in the way because it was bleeding into everything. It was bleeding in how you were making decisions, every single thing. I mean, it was bleeding into everything, and that was negatively impacting us.
Totally.
And that was sort of something we had to get to the root of.
But it's hard too, because like, like I had parents who were, for all intents and purposes, like really good
Yeah.
at teaching sort of like financial literacy
And fiscal responsibility.
and this is a thing that is taught not at all
Sure.
in schools.
And I would say that for me,
which I think, let me like,
ahead. Finish your thought.
I think
Sorry,
that's
not stepping
I
on
think
your
there's a huge opportunity there, and it's hard, right? Like our schools can't be asked to carry the burden.
They're asked to carry a lot already.
Our schools weren't designed to carry the burden that they're already carrying, right? But I do think in terms of like places where there are definitely places where we can weed the garden in terms of what we ask our schools to do. And as we weed the garden, we have to take a look at like, okay, what should our schools be doing? Like, I think basic financial literacy has to be a part of what kids learn in schools.
I think they should learn it like they learned to drive. Like we were talking about that earlier, and I was like, you need some sort of base. You need a baseline.
It's like, okay,
for
great,
all kids.
great.
It doesn't mean you all need to take finance classes your
No.
junior year or whatever, but you should have some options, and everyone needs
but
a
that
baseline.
you're coming out of a school
Yeah.
and that you can tell me like the mitochondria is the powerhouse of the cell, but you have no idea how the hell to write a budget.
Right.
Is wild.
Or what a budget is.
Or what a budget even.
I mean,
or
I do
why
think,
it matters.
Yeah, I do think it should be a base. Like, younger is kind of moot. So you should be taking it in high school, and it should be like you take freshman health and wellness. It should be a freshman year class, and then if you want to have options for electives later on, sure, go ahead. But I do think it's a great opportunity for schools and just parents in general. Like, we need to be having your children understand any sort of fiscal understanding is more important than zero fiscal understanding, which is sort of the understanding that I came from. Not zero, but it's not something that was an open conversation in our house all the time. Just because my parents had a different relationship with it, they both were like, Everything that we have is from God. Everything that we're going to get is from God. Nothing is actually truly yours. And kind of hippy dippy, but not really. But it was like, you know, when I got my driver's license, for example, my parents were like, this is the car you're going to drive. I didn't get a car or work for a car or buy a car. I worked to put gas in the car.
Correct.
That was offered to me because that was the one that was hand-me-downs that we were going to have. And that was the option. And that's what I had. And then the next person who learned to drive had that car. And then, you know, like it was just a round robin all the time.
It's just,
and that was sort of my understanding of it.
and forgive me for going back to it,
Sure.
but like, it's conceptually, it's wild for me because the kids spend so much of their time in school worried about like grade point.
Yeah.
When the fact of the matter is, like, when you think about the numbers that matter in life, like your grade point average versus like your credit score.
Yeah, that's
Like-
a very Western thing, but we won't get into credit score. But yes, go
Yes,
ahead.
but
it matters.
But you
Sure.
know what I'm saying?
Yes.
Like my credit score has impacted me in adulthood
Sure.
way more than my GPA ever
Sure.
did.
Because you had financially responsible parents who understood
I
the way
knew
that
what that
worked.
was.
Sure.
But there's a lot
Sure.
of kids who are graduating from high school, graduating from college, and who have no idea.
Yeah. Don't
about
just
the
get a credit card.
implications of a credit
Because they're
score.
sending you one.
I can
Yeah.
I can tell you the number of times I
Yeah.
have been asked about my GPA after college.
Yeah.
0.
Thank you for making my previous point about why habits matter more important than the actual numbers. You didn't mean to do that, but you did that.
Yeah, but it
Yeah.
also reinforces my point. Like you
Yeah.
got to play the game.
Yes.
I think
to
the
a
whole
certain extent.
I think the whole credit score system is nonsense. But you can choose to either swim upstream or you can choose to recognize like, oh, this is a game where I exchange behaviors for points.
Well, you need to be. I don't think you should treat human beings like that, and that's a separate conversation. However,
yes, but that's the system as it exists
I
right
understand, but you can choose to participate in it or not. That to being said, we need to make sure that our children understand that it is a game. It is a system. It doesn't have anything to do with their identity or personality or whether they're a good human being or a bad human being. Hold on. But that there's some level of participation is going to be needed in this world to ultimately access whatever the goal is, whether it's a home or a school loan or whatever. And so they need to understand that it's a tool, it's a neutral, it's useful for what it is, and no more. I think sometimes I just take stock with the fact that you give it more credit than I think it deserves.
I think you give it less credit than it deserves.
There we are with our divergent thinking. We're still to center. The fact that we're giving it credit at all
Like
is
even your comment
important in
comment
our
about
life.
like credit score, like you can choose to play the game or not. False. You have to play the game.
I mean, there are people who pay in cash all the time in this life who just don't.
they're called the Unabomber.
I
like you
mean-
can't like unless you're gonna live
they got
off the
stuff.
grid.
Well, people are. That's what I'm saying. People. I mean,
I love
this
you.
is a
what
bigger.
you're saying is crazy.
This is a bigger concept than I think you're willing to put thought or time into now. But there are a lot of people who are choosing to disengage. I'm just saying there are.
I'm gonna call our financial manager
That's
because I
fine.
need them to tell us who's right now. Okay.
Why does it have to be right? Go back to our questions.
It
'cause
always has to
we're
be right.
running long.
It
We're
always
running
has to be
long.
right.
Go.
So last question.
Sure.
Are our current behaviors
Mm-hmm.
showcasing, right? Because like it's way less about what you tell your kids and it's way more about what
Only
you show.
what you do. It's only what you do. They
And
actually
so
don't
like
hear your words.
yes,
It's
like what are we
only
telling
your
our kids
actions.
about money?
Yeah.
Like, hey, money is a tool.
Sure.
Hey, like money is a byproduct
Mm-hmm.
of hard work and responsibility. Is what we show our kids a reflection of what we're teaching them?
I don't know. This is one where I think like jury's out. We're gonna know in 10 years. Well, I mean,
Tell me we're crushing it.
I know we're not.
Damn
I
it.
would say, again, our children are just two very different human beings. So the way they even think about money is different, right? Like that is
Sure.
relationally, that's going to be really different. I think what again we are hopefully showing with our behaviors is that it is a tool, but they live a pretty well.
Here's why I think we're
We
doing
don't live
good
in a
job.
giant house.
No.
we don't have, and we've said that. Like we're not moving.
We've kept our nuts small.
Right.
But this is
Yes.
why I think we're doing a good job.
Okay, go ahead.
Because if we're teaching our kids, to your point, that money is a tool,
Mm-hmm.
right? I feel like what we're showing them is that money is a tool for experiences.
Which they do get from us.
Which they get
So
from us.
They have traveled internationally. They've traveled a
We're
lot.
not about stuff.
No.
We're about travel and
Yeah.
we're about experiences. And I think we're showing that to them.
They do, whether it's good or bad, that has definitely been their experience in childhood.
Correct.
They've been to a lot of different states.
Check.
Yes.
I think we're killing it there.
I'm not going to say killing it, but I do think we're probably in the green on that side of the spectrum.
Okay, good. I'll take in the green.
Yeah.
Okay.
More than in the red.
And then in terms of like, hey, money is a tool, but also money is a byproduct of hard work. Like, I think they've seen us work really, really hard.
I think they have I'm really proud of their work ethic, both of them, singularly and collectively. I think they see us work and they see it healthy in a healthy balance. They see you on the road. They see me at home, and I don't think, and maybe this is a place where I think that we've done better and I'll give us more credit, is like, they don't see work as like dad is this and mom is this. They just see like there's stuff to be done. And so you get after it.
Yeah.
Like whether it's at home or outside or with the sports, like whatever work is to be done.
Do the work.
That's a neutral in our home.
See a problem, fix a problem.
Yeah. And they see us both work separately and together in different aspects of our life, whether outside the home, inside the home, because if there's work to be done, you get after it. Because you're a family and you work. And so I hope that they have that. And I think that piece will then proceed to the stewardship piece and how that they operate in the future. I hope.
Oh,
I don't know.
God, it's always so
It's our
dangerous
hope.
to
It's a
talk
prayer.
about this.
I know. Well, and
'cause
talking about your kids is always
eventually our
so
kids are going to grow
vulnerable.
up and become adults.
And this recording
and
lives in history.
This is going to age like milk. And it's...
What were they even talking about then? Bitcoin's all the rage. They're talking about money. Like, what are they?
I know.
Or gold. I don't know. Whatever it's
Okay.
going to be
Well,
in the future.
Jury's out.
I know. We'll see.
We'll see. Hey, I'll tell you the thing I'm happiest about.
Oh, please.
Is that I'm the Bob Cratchit in our relationship. And so like that's my takeaway.
I don't have a label in the whole Christmas Carol story at all. I don't even know. Maybe I'm the kids getting the goose because I'm just like, don't worry, it's gonna end up great no matter what.
Yeah,
like,
you're the kid out sledding on the street.
Yeah, totally.
Oblivious.
Yeah, that's me in the story.
Oblivious
for sure.
to any hardship or
It's
Ebenezer Scrooge.
beautiful how everyone.
It's Christmas.
Are we so happy? Sure, I'll go get this goose. I don't care. Sure, throw me some money to get it. Yeah, I'll get it, and then it'll be fine.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
The world needs all of us.
All right. Well,
it's good.
Great. We've accomplished nothing. That'll do it for this week's episode of Teaching Keating. As always, find us anywhere podcasts are listened to. Find us on the YouTube channel. Hit the subscribe button to wherever you find us. You can find me out on the road again this January.
And you're going to find me in the mountains with the kids skiing. That's been a big commitment because of sports has been so crazy with us, and we're really trying to be a little bit more.
Can I come too?
You're allowed. You just said you're going to be on the road, though. So, of course, yes, schedule permitting, of course, you're always invited. You're
permitting.
part of our family.
Thanks.
So, yes. But it's been a big commitment that I'm really trying to get the kids,
I'll
because
have
we've
my-
done a bad job
yeah.
at like exploring Colorado and our mountains, and I need to do a better job at that. They're homegrown. So
right.
am I.
Well,
They
I'll
need
have
to
my
know.
assistant reach out, see if I can
Okay.
get on your ski
Thank
schedule.
you.
That'll do it. We'll see you. We'll see you guys for next week's episode of Teaching Keating. Be well.
Funny.
All right.
Cut.